Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our weekend weather update and the outlook across next week, recorded on Friday the 27th of September. Well, the cold front has moved up and across the country. We've seen snow flurries down around Gore and other parts of Southland. There'll be some more snow flurries off and on today, isolated snow showers moving in to the southwestern corner, mostly around the hills and ranges. By 6 o'clock this evening, this line here is the cold front, so it is clearing away from New Zealand, and obviously behind it, the cooler or colder, depending on where you are, southerly airflow moves on in. Still a little bit windy for the western side of the North Island and also down here around the very southeastern corner. All right, let's actually take a look at the big picture here. So we've got high pressure exiting Australia and moving towards New Zealand. You can see here the leftovers of that cold front, and there's also a weak area of low pressure driving in some heavy rain around Brisbane. So let's animate Saturday and Sunday, and you'll see the high kind of moving in. Not a lot really changing though. By the time we get into the very early hours of Monday morning, that high is finally coming in across the country. But over Saturday and Sunday, the southwesterly winds on this side of the high, they'll move across the country. So let's break that down. Here is lunchtime Saturday. High pressure leaves Australia and a windier southwesterly carries on around places like Auckland and some southern areas as well. Might be a bit more of a westerly flow down for Southland and parts of Otago. Otherwise, not a lot going on. We've got a few showers along the western side of New Zealand, not very much. Most places are dry or mainly dry. Temperatures, not great, not a great deal of change in many areas, although you might notice in the South Island, they've gone up a little bit of where they've been. That lower half of the South Island, you're seeing a bit of a jump on where we've been, certainly for today, Friday. So Sunday, not a lot of change to the Saturday forecast. The high is still off ashore. You've still got the windy southwesters around Auckland, bit of a southerly flow coming in around Wellington, and westerly winds carry on for the southern part of the island. Many places are dry, but again, that slight risk of an isolated shower along the western coastline, but eastern areas and inland areas look completely dry. Next week. Now, speaking of next week, we have no videos next Monday and Tuesday. I'm actually away on leave, and I booked this a number of months ago, and weather forecaster gets massive high pressure over the country. So that's kind of weird, eh? So we're not here on Monday, but the news is we've got good weather around. There's not a lot happening on Monday. Great for the school holidays. Dry weather across the entire country. Light winds, might be some isolated foggy areas or a bit of morning cloud. And the only area that's really seeing a bit of wind, a slight westerly to northwesterly flow around the lower part of the South Island. Now, as that high drifts away on Tuesday next week, more of a northerly flow coming down across New Zealand. So the temperatures go up even further, but there is low pressure forming out at sea. Now, I return on Wednesday next week, back to the weather videos again, and we'll have plenty to talk about on Wednesday next week, because as this high moves away, strong to maybe severe gale northwesterlies, blowing in across many parts of New Zealand, and with this low pressure zone offshore, that could help encourage some of this rain, and it does have subtropical connections. It's also worth noting the pale blue means not a huge amount of rain. So it's not necessarily a massive amount of rain, but these areas here that you see in sort of the green yellow shading along the western side of New Zealand and the top of the North Island, those areas there could be localized heavy falls moving on through. And we get to Thursday next week, and I wanted to show you this big picture map because you can sort of see, even though there's a lot of chaos in our weather at the moment, there is a bit of a pattern to it. So if you go over to the Indian Ocean, high pressure. Come into Australia, there's some low pressure in this zone here around Western Australia. Then you come in towards Victoria, Tasmania. There's the next high, the next low over New Zealand, the next high east of us, the next low east of there. If I step right off the screen, there's another high. So there is a pattern of high pressure, low pressure, high pressure, low pressure, kind of like a chain link fence. And that is giving us the mixture of spring weather, where it's kind of warm one day, turns cooler the next day. All right, but to end here, let's take a look at the 7-day rainfall around New Zealand. Not a lot for the first few days. Then we get some of that wet weather next week. But this is still not 100% locked in because, as I said, there'll be some hit and miss heavy downpours. But you do see some areas here in the northwest of the South Island potentially getting up to 100 millimetres. Similar story around parts of the west coast as well. And these sort of orange shaded parts around the Eastern Bay of Plenty and Taranaki, 50 to 80 millimetres there. Hawke's Bay, Canterbury, not much in the way of rain, just a little bit coming in for you over the next week. And that is all from me. Thanks very much for joining us. Have a great weekend. And again, not here Monday, Tuesday of next week. We'll be back on Wednesday, not only to do our New Zealand forecast, but also our ClimateWatch update, our one for October. We're waiting for Wednesday anyway, because the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia don't issue their next climate driver update until Tuesday evening. So it does make sense for us to do it on Wednesday of next week. So that's all from me. We'll see you again Wednesday of next week. Have a great weekend.